What's going to you, then?
Frida and I are trying to concentrate. I don't see why we should have to put up with this racket.
You think you're something special, don't you? Please. Now, why should you tell us to shut up? Do you think you're a screw or something? Well, let me tell you something, darling. You try on that la-di-da stuff when you get onto a proper wing, and someone's gonna do you.
You seem to have a remarkable grasp of prison etiquette.
Well, I've been here before.
Well, my friend and I haven't. And when our case comes up, we shall no doubt be released.
Ah, they're innocent. I don't know why you bother coming here at all. Do you really think it will be all right?
Yes, of course, dear. You've got a diplomatic passport.
Then perhaps they will let me go home again. Hark a Lady Muck from Port Said here.
In the unlikely event of either of us being found guilty, it's 10 to 1 they won't send us back in here again. They only do that with the rubbish.
Now you listen to me, Mrs. Marshall Snellgrove. We've got lots of your type in here, and no one gives a monkey's, whether you was pinched in a supermarket or down bloody Bond Street.
Right, ladies, lock up time! Get the gates clear. Come on,
And if you're so keen on jippos, I'm surprised you don't pair up with her.
And if they send you back here, I suggest that you spend some time in the prison library. Then you might discover that gypsies don't come from Egypt.
Come on, ladies, break it up.
Come on.
Come on. In you go. Come on. Right, ladies. Oh, come on now, Brian. Good night.
Good night.
For goodness sake, cheer up, Ralda. They're an ignorant lot in here. They don't mean half they say.
She called me a gyppo.
Well, sure, I've been called a lot worse than that, I can tell you. You can't expect anything better from that class of person. Oh, you don't know what a relief it'll be to get out of here. 2 months now I've been on remand, you know that? And all I done was have a difference of opinion with my neighbour. They'd hardly give you 2 months for blacking her eye now, would they?
There's no means of knowing what they do, in my opinion.
Oh? But surely, Ralda, you know what's going to happen. I just wish you'd tell me, that's all.
Are you mocking me, Bridie Logan, like the others?
Well, I don't see the point in being a full-blooded Romany if you can't tell fortunes.
Maybe I could, if I chose.
There, I knew it. Oh, I can just see up at Appleby Fair sitting in a tent with, Consult Madam Loveridge, painted up in curly letters.
What do you know about Appleby?
My father used to take me there when he was selling horses. Hey, there's more kinds of travelling people than one, you know.
Ah, it were a grand place. We used to go there every year and meet with the whole family. Hear about who died and who'd had another little baby. And we'd sing and dance. And there were never no trouble with the skirmishers, none at all.
Ah, yeah, I remember how it was.
You don't even know what I'm talking about.
Of course I do.
What's a skirmisher, then?
A pub. Sometimes they let you in, sometimes they didn't. Oh, up there they were always friendly. I'd love to go back, I really would.
You told me you lived in a house.
I do now. It's better for the kids.
How can it be? Not if they're real travellers. I brought up 9 and they'd have got sick living in a house. I don't know how anyone can stand it, I really don't. All them drains running everywhere.
Ah, surely it's better than no drains at all.
That's a matter of opinion. If I got water or anything else I want to throw away, I'd rather throw it somewhere I knows than having it run down all those little pipes in the walls.
Oh, it must be awful for you here. Hey, never mind. Look, I'm sure it won't be for long. Come on, Ralda, tell me what's going to happen. Hey, I wish we'd some cards. No, me hand. That'll do.
Are you going to give me silver?
Ah, you know very well I've no such thing.
Oh, well,
Hey, I could give you a roll-up.
2.
Ooh, you drive a hard bargain, Ralda Loveridge.
Chop.
All right, chop.
You're going to have 2 more little chavies.
Oh, please God, not in here.
The first one He'll be born in about 9 months' time. When did you say your case were coming up?
Thursday. Highbury Corner Court.
He'll be all right then, won't he? Where's the smokes?
Oh, Madame Esmeralda, you're terrific. I tell you something. You have got a real future.
That's something I don't know about.
Ah, but surely if you can tell me them things, you must have some idea.
I'm gonna stay in here forever.
Right.
Don't you touch me.
Only where I've got to. Ah. I breathe in. Breathe out.
What am I in here for? This is for sick people, ain't it?
And a few nutcases.
Very funny.
Breathe in. Breathe out. We also bring in young girls such as yourself who might find it a bit rough outside.
Thanks, but I can look after myself.
I'm sure you can. All right, sister.
No, Jill, you leave your things here. They'll be sent to the laundry. You'll find a nightie and a dressing gown behind that screen. You take that bed over there now, Jill. Go on.
Hello, love.
Hello.
What's your name?
Jill.
Where are you from? Which wing?
Remand.
Me too. Never seen you there before?
Only came in yesterday.
Oh, well, that explains it then, doesn't it? Want an orange? I've been here a couple of days myself, taking a bit of a rest cure.
You what?
Oh, I got fed up with all that crowd out there, so I got hold of a rusty nail and scratched my leg with it. Want a look?
No, thanks.
Made a right old mess of it. Bright pink it is.
Ain't you scared?
No. Oh, not me, love. Full of optimism and penicillin. What's supposed to be the matter with you, anyway?
Didn't say.
How old are you? 15?
About that.
I can tell you what disease you've got. Being young. That's all. Funny old world we live in, isn't it, eh?
And stop pushing! Stop it! Excuse me, officer. Yes? You were on escort duty at the magistrate's court. Can you tell me what happened to Farida?
Your roommate, conditional discharge. She's probably on her way back to the Middle East by now.
So bad.
Come along.
Sorry. So silly. It just seems so unfair.
What's the matter, lady?
Funny thing to call me.
You're not like the others, I can tell.
I soon shall be if I stay here much longer. Oh, dear. You see, Farida and I were arrested on the same day in the same shop. And because her husband's a diplomat, they must have pulled some strings, and there she is free, and here am I. We haven't spoken before. I'm Nina Richardson.
Mrs. Ralder Doveridge.
That's an unusual name.
Esmeralda.
Oh, yes. You share with that Irish girl, Bridie, somebody.
She's gone out today, too.
funny how one makes friends. I didn't expect to somehow. Excuse me asking, but aren't you a Romany?
Purebred.
Oh, I've always been fascinated by gypsy. Well, I used to go to the races a good deal. Epsom, you know. Absolutely fascinating the way you've kept your way of life.
Wouldn't do for you, lady, not with them pretty white hands. You was born to better things, I can tell.
Well, yes. Tell me, can you see into the future and all that sort of thing?
Oh, sometimes I can, and sometimes I can't. You wouldn't have a bit of baccy, would you, lady?
Baccy?
Oh, Mrs. Loveridge.
Yes?
This is Elsie MacDonald. We thought the two of you would like to share a room.
Miss,
Yes?
governor's application. Can't I be on my own, lady?
No, Mrs. Loveridge. We prefer women of your age to share. What would happen if you were taken ill during the night?
Well, I should ring the bell like it says on the regulations card.
It says here you can't read.
They were read out to her, madam, on admission.
Oh, I see. What exactly is your objection to Elsie MacDonald?
Oh, she's dirty.
I seem to remember you made the same complaint about the first woman you were with. What was her name? Bridie Logan, which you seem to settle down all right.
So I should hope.
What do you mean, son?
Well, if you remember, madam, we went to quite a lot of trouble to find another gypsy.
She were an Irish tinker.
I'm afraid I'm not very well up on those fine distinctions.
She were an Irish tinker and a dirty one at that. I put up with her, that's all. The Lord knows it's difficult enough to keep yourself clean in a mucky hole like this.
That will do, Mrs. Loveridge.
Beg your pardon, lady.
I admit the sanitary arrangements here aren't as good as we'd like them to be, but they can't be worse than you're used to. Well, I believe you used to live in a caravan.
That's right.
Parked in a field with no running water and no sanitation.
But it were a grand place. Plenty of room all about and plenty of places to get firewood. We used to go travelling twice a year, but we always come back to there.
Well, I'm afraid we can't arrange for you to go travelling all over Stone Park. Now, we're short of space in Remandwing, so if you don't like the roommate we've chosen for you, you'll just have to put up with it.
Not that Elsie.
No, Nina Richardson.
Well, that grand lady with the smart new clothes.
She seems to have taken a liking to you.
And she keeps her cell as clean as a new pin. So any complaints will be quite unjustified.
Right, that's all.
She's a thoroughly obstinate old woman.
Don't be too hard on her, Mrs. Armitage.
Well, I try not to get irritated, madam, but I wish she wouldn't put on that voice as though she was selling clothes pegs.
Was Bridie Logan really dirty?
Not more than most.
Must be worse for her, you know. Imagine spending all your life in the open air and then being cooped up here. Must be absolute hell. Who's next?
It's me butler.
That's my grandson, Gordon. And he a fine big lad. He's in the scrap metal. He can strip an old van down quicker than you can bless yourself. Ah, now this one we're taking at my husband's funeral.
Oh. What beautiful flowers.
That wreath there cost 15 quid. The gates of heaven.
Quite beautiful. Tell me, was he a sort of king or something, like Gypsy Petrolengo?
Petrolangos were nothing compared with Loveridge's. I were a Lee, of course, better than both of them.
Oh, I knew at once that you were something special. You have such wonderful bones. Where was this one taken?
Up to Scarborough, when we was travelling. Look, you can see the greys out there.
Greys?
Horses. All harnessed and ready to move off. We couldn't stay there, of course.
Why not?
Well, we never do hang about when there's been somebody passed on.
Oh, why?
A lot of things we do you wouldn't understand.
Oh, but I do sincerely want to know about your customs and so on. When I was at school, I read George Borrow. You know, the Romany Rye. There, that's two words I know already. Gry means horse, and rye means gentleman.
You're getting to be quite a scholar, lady.
Oh, do you think so? Wonderful way of taking my mind off my own troubles. And perhaps I could help you, too. Supposing I taught you to read.
Well, if you want to, lady.
Oh, I'll go to the library and get some books with nice big print. Oh, Raldo, we're going to have such fun. Now, is there anything you want washing?
A tin laundry day.
I know, but one does get so grubby. I'm just going to swill out a few types. So if you've got anything, it's cold water, which is better than nothing. What's the matter?
You could have washed your things in there.
Well, I know it's against the regulations,
You
but...
filthy, dirty bitch!
Oh!
So it's not surprising that Mrs. Richardson was extremely upset. She was doing her best to be kind, and you insulted her. Even though you are not a convicted prisoner, I could punish you very severely.
Well, I am a prisoner, ain't I?
No, Mrs. Loveridge, you are not. You have been committed here by a judge because of your behavior in his court.
Well, it comes to the same thing, doesn't it? I'm still locked up.
But not for a specific length of time, as you would be if you were sentenced.
Oh.
That's why you're in the remand wing. I know you're an elderly woman, but there are others here who don't behave as you do. Is it because you're used to living out of doors? Does that make it harder for you? Mrs. Armitage, is there anything we can do about that?
Claustrophobia, madam.
Could we find her some work outside?
Oh, not while she's in remand. She's not entitled to go on an outside working party.
I thought I saw some women clearing up that bit of garden by the greenhouse. Couldn't we make an exception? Would you like that? At least it would get you out of doors.
Yes, lady.
All right, we'll try that. And we've nowhere to put you for a day or two, so you'll have to stay with Mrs. Richardson.
But
If you don't like it here, let me remind you, you don't have to stay in Stone Park for one day longer than you choose to. It's entirely up to you. All you have to do is apologize to the court and agree to carry out the order.
Carry out the order?
You know very well what I'm talking about. The judge made it quite plain. Until you tell your people to get off that land, you stay in here.
I ain't never gonna tell 'em to move. We've got as much right on that land as anybody. Hundreds of years we've been there. May the Lord God come down and strike me dead if that ain't the truth.
If you take that attitude, you're going to be here for a long time. Right. See that she's put on the garden working party, will you?
No wonder nothing grows here, nothing but broken glass and cat dirt.
Well, she's sleeping well enough. Any recommendation as to diet, Doctor?
Well, we gave her a very good clear-out, so, yeah, I'd keep her on slops for a day or two, right?
Must say, I never realized laurel leaves could be so dangerous.
Prussic acid, would you believe? Well, there's not much of it. You have to take a hell of a lot. Which is what old Ralda did, it seems. She probably knows a lot of other tricks as well. So, if she's really keen on killing herself, we're going to have our work cut out keeping up with her.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Spencer.
Sister,
What are you doing here?
when I came in, they told me Miss Whittaker had flu, so I've taken over.
Yeah. That'll make a nice change for you. Now, I particularly want you to keep an eye on 3 women from remand. I put them all together. There's Tessa Brady.
She's not back again, is she?
Yeah, she must like it here. She's skiving, of course, but she's given herself a nasty septic leg. There's a rather grubby young juvenile.
And you've put her in with Tessa?
Oh, Tessa knows the ropes.
Well, yes.
Now, don't make
but-
Scottish faces at me, Mrs. Spencer. They've got a chaperone. An old gypsy woman called Ralda Loveridge. Attempted suicide last night. She's one of those contempt of court cases. She stays here indefinitely until the court is satisfied that she's purged her contempt. And I'm afraid that's one thing that you can't do with a stomach pump.
How old is she?
She doesn't know. I should think about 100.
Oh, lovely morning, Gran. Oh, come on, you can't still have the ump about what I said out there.
I don't like people calling me names.
Look, I've said I'm sorry. Come on, treat yourself. Have a choppy, eh?
Where'd you get them from?
Yes, wouldn't you like to know, eh? You greedy little pig.
Come on, Mrs. Loveridge. Time for your pills.
Oh, I don't want any of that stuff.
I'm going to wait here until you take them.
No. Please.
Oh, God!
Clumsy thing. I'll have to get a cloth for this lot.
What'd you do that for, Tess?
If a person doesn't want to take their pills, a person doesn't have to. Well, anyway, that's the way I feel. OK?
Thank you.
Hello? No, I'm afraid Dr. Mays isn't here at present. It's Mrs. Spencer speaking. Can I help you? Right. I'll ask him to call you back.
Hello, Mum.
Malcolm, who told you I was here?
Miss Collins on North Wing.
Oh, of course, it's your day to take the reading class there.
Now, we've got the Middletons to supper, so I thought you might want me to pick something up.
Now, there's a dutiful son.
We're low on booze.
2 bottles of Beaujolais. And remind me to pay you back.
I will.
Cup of coffee before we start.
Yeah.
I can get another one for Dr. Mays.
Thanks.
How's the reading class getting on?
Oh, not bad.
You know, we've got someone here in the hospital you might be able to help, if you've got the time.
Oh, Mum, if I start getting into the individual thing,
It's an old gypsy woman.
Really?
We don't get too many of them here. I suppose vagrancy and petty thieving's more their sort of crime.
So what's she in for?
Well, it's a bit sad. Apparently, she's some kind of chieftainess, and the local council wanted to move a whole group of them off their camping site. But they wouldn't go unless this woman, Mrs. Loveridge, gave the order.
And she wouldn't. Good for her.
In fact, she dug her toes in, and there was practically a pitched battle with the police. So the council took her to court, but she still refused. And then she was disrespectful to the judge, and he sent her here to cool her heels.
That's terrible. Why is she in hospital? Is she ill?
She tried to kill herself.
God, it makes me so angry. I mean, here we are, all pretending to be liberal-minded, and we never stop pushing around the poor bloody gypsies.
Malcolm.
Yeah, I know, but why should we destroy their culture? Try and make them carbon copies of ourselves? And what's so great about us? We're no more honest and not even cleaner.
Mrs. Loveridge has some odd ideas about hygiene. I was looking at her file.
You know about those gypsy kids in my form at school? Mm-hmm. Well, I tried to really find out about them. They're amazing people. They have quite a history, too. They came from northern India sometime in the Middle Ages. And they still have all kinds of taboos. For instance, they'd never drink from a cracked cup like this one. Or one that's been on the floor, even if it's washed. And it's hard to believe, but one of the reasons they don't like living in houses is that when you pull the chain, the stuff goes circulating through the walls. They think that's dirty. If you're living on a camp, you can throw it away somewhere well outside. And the kids were telling me that in their caravans, they'll never use the same bowl for washing their faces and their clothes. They think that's disgusting. I mean, can you imagine what it must be like for them living in a place like this? Sharing a cell with someone who doesn't understand.
I'm beginning to.
That does help to explain Mrs. Loveridge's behaviour. I'm very grateful to you for telling us all this, Mrs. Spencer. You're in the hospital wing, aren't you? You must be very busy.
Yes, madam. Thank you.
Right.
What seems so extraordinary to me is that she's so determined to stay here. What do you make of that?
She's a very obstinate old woman.
Well, we can't let her have 2 basins. The others would complain.
Has she had any visits, do you know?
No.
But she does have a family.
Running into hundreds, probably.
Mrs. Armitage. I do think we should try not to be prejudiced.
No, of course not, madam. But I don't think we should try and cater for the foibles all these various groups go in for. We haven't got the staff available.
Miss Clark, could you go and see her family? Perhaps they could persuade her to change her mind.
Not much hope, I'm afraid, but I'll have a try.
Right, that's that then.
To go back to this subject of staffing, madam, I think we could do with a few less in the hospital wing for a start.
Mrs. Armitage has a point, you know. We shouldn't need such a large disciplinary staff in the hospital.
Well, what am I going to do about it?
Well, how many of the women are actually not ill?
Well, it depends where you draw the line. I mean, those that haven't got anything physically wrong with them are either emotionally disturbed or they're in what's known as moral danger.
Well, I agree about keeping the very young girls in there, of course, but I was thinking about someone like Ralda Loveridge. I know she's there because of her suicide attempt, but why do you keep her there?
Because of a heart condition.
But you told me it isn't serious.
Well, it can be controlled by medication, but... See, the problem is that the old devil won't take her pills. I mean, Sister found her sitting on a whole nest of them like a broody hen. Somebody's got to stand over her and make sure. And that wouldn't be possible on the remand wing.
Oh,
it's not possible. She's crafty as a fox.
Excuse me, is this Mrs. Loveridge's?
Who wants to know?
Well, I'm really looking for some relatives of hers. I'm the welfare officer from Stone Park.
The welfare, eh? Is it, it's about her pension?
May I come in?
Yeah. Help yourself.
My name's Miss Clark.
Oh, Gordon Loveridge. I'm her grandson. How's the old lady getting on, then?
Oh, not too well, I'm afraid. She's taking it pretty hard.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's nice.
Bit old-fashioned.
I hope you don't mind if I ask a few questions.
Yeah, carry on. Take a seat.
Why haven't any of you been to see her?
She won't let us. Told us not to go near the place.
Do you always do everything she tells you?
Most times? Yeah. Well, she's been around so long, she must know a bit about life and all that. Anyway, it's a matter of respect.
But does she always know what's best? Times have changed.
Yeah, and the old girl hasn't. Well, that's for sure. Yeah, there's some things she just can't get into her head. Do you want a drink? Take the scrap metal business, for instance. Our dad started me on that when I was just a little chavvy. 6 years old. Even then, I could sort out lead from copper and give you a good price and all. Of course, years ago, when you used to break things up for scrap, you could leave the bits you didn't want no matter where. They won't let you get away with that these days, you know.
You mean the local council?
Yeah, that's right. Well, that was the start of all the trouble about this place. Well, I see what they're on about, I suppose. It is a bit of a mess. But mind you, we don't get no rubbish collections round here.
What happened? Did the council just tell you to clear off?
Yeah. I don't think they cared where we went to, so long as it was onto somebody else's doorstep. And then afterwards, well, it was surprising, really. Quite a lot of local people started kicking up a fuss, saying how we was persecuted and all this stuff. So in the end, the council was forced to find us somewhere else to go to.
But Ralda still refused to budge.
Yeah.
Why was that?
Because she's pig-headed, that's why. Then when she was had up for obstructing the police and all this, there was this judge. He was a real stuffed shirt, you know? Don't think anybody had ever stood up to him before, not in his own court anyway. God, you should have seen the pair of them. The judge really blew his top. He went redder than a turkey cock. And Rada, cussing blue flashes, she swore blind she'd never move, not unless she was carried out of here in a coffin. Yeah, it was a real 22-carat punch-up, I can tell you.
Fought to a standstill.
Yep. 2 champs.
What's this other place like?
Oh, it's great. Water laid on, drains, everything you want. That's a lovely situation. Yeah, well, that's what makes it all so funny.
What's this letter?
D?
Right, now here's an easy one.
Oh.
And this one?
Well, I don't rightly know. But I know what the word is.
Oh, go on.
Dog.
Terrific.
Didn't very difficult. There's a picture.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's there to help you.
Funny old animal. Too old to learn new tricks like me.
Don't you want to learn?
Oh, not particularly. Well, what's the benefit of it? So's I can learn to read trashy stories like her over there.
It's a very nice story. It's all about this young girl who gets carried away by things. I'll read you a bit out if you like.
No, thank you. Any stories I need, I've got 'em in my head.
Oh, tell us one, Ralph.
Oh,
go on.
Tell us a story.
Oh, God's cut.
Time for your tablets, dear. And no cheating. She's a wicked old woman. She steals them and hides them away if I don't watch out. That's a good girl.
No harm in us stealing. Got permission.
Permission?
From the blessed Lord.
From the blessed Lord.
Hundreds and hundreds of years ago when they crucified him. The way they tell it, even then there weren't no better metal workers than our people.
Metal workers? You only do scrap.
Ah, but it weren't scrap in them days. It were gold and silver and...
Gold and silver.
When the Romans made the cross, see, they sent for one of us to make the nails. We want 4 nails, they said. 1 for each hand, the 3rd for his feet, and the 4th to stick in his poor heart. Well, the gypsy man didn't want no part of that. So he put the 4th nail in his mouth and swallowed it. And ever since then, the Romans have been looking for that nail. And that's why we've always been persecuted and never left in peace. Because the gypsy man stole that nail. But the Lord God Almighty, he knew I did it. And that's why he lets us steal. And don't make too much fuss about it. Bless him.
The question is, how do we get rid of an inmate who seems absolutely determined to stay here? I assume your son did try to reason with her.
Oh, yes, but you wouldn't hear of it.
And you say that her grandson would much rather move camp to this other side?
Yes, the whole family's in favor.
Well, then why doesn't he come here and tell her that?
He tried to. She refused the visit.
Well, she'll just stay here forever then.
Just because she won't admit she's wrong. It's entirely up to her.
Not entirely, Miss Clark. The judge could make an order for her release.
Only if she goes to him and apologizes can you see her doing that.
No.
And we can hardly force her.
Would you find out for me who was the judge on the Esmeralda Loveridge case? Try and get hold of him. Yes, I'd like to speak to him personally.
What are you going to say?
That she tried to kill herself and will probably try again. He may decide she's been punished enough when he sees her.
When he sees her, madam?
He'll probably bite my head off, but it's worth a try.
About 10 minutes.
Good morning, Rounder.
What are you doing here? You don't look sick.
I'm not. I thought I'd come over and see you.
Tidn't allowed.
Oh, I got a special application. I wanted to see how you were getting on.
What's that got to do with you?
Rounder, it was I who found you. If I hadn't fed somebody, you might have died.
Might not be such a bad idea at that. Why don't you try minding your own business?
I brought you some tobacco. I hear that you're having reading lessons. He's nice, isn't he, Malcolm Spencer? He's teaching lots of my friends. They all think he's marvellous.
Oh, so you're still in the same place, then?
No. No, I'm on North Wing now.
Oh, so they sent you down, did they? How long for?
3 months. But with the time I've had on remand, it's practically nothing. And at least I've got a proper date to look forward to. Oh, Ralda, don't you want to get out of here?
You say you made application to see me?
Yes, that's right.
Quite sure it wasn't the other way around, like. They sent you, like.
What do you mean?
Because everybody's getting at me, that's why. The governor, the screws, and now you. Well, I ain't gonna budge. I've made up my mind, as far as I'm concerned, that's that.
Yes? Oh, good. Ask him to come in, will you? And ring the hospital. I want Ralda Loveridge brought over, but she's to wait outside my office until I'm ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Forrester?
I can't tell you how grateful I am. It's so good of you to spare the time.
I need hardly tell you this is most unusual.
Well, there was no one else I could turn to for help.
The suicide attempt you spoke of, presumably it was genuine?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah. Have you had any personal contact with the prisoner?
I've talked to her several times, tried to explain her position.
No, you're sure your interest in the case doesn't arise from any feelings of sentimentality?
No, I don't think so. Won't you sit down?
An elderly woman, gypsy, rather picturesque. You might be sympathetic towards her.
Not particularly. As you know, she can be extremely awkward.
Oh, yes, indeed.
On the other hand, I don't like to see a woman of that age in prison, even if she's guilty of a crime, and this one isn't.
Mrs. Forrester, she's shown grave disrespect for the law and those of us who are entrusted with its administration.
Yes, I know.
Therefore, she must be punished.
She has been. She's been here for 6 weeks now. To someone used to her way of life, it must be most disagreeable. Perhaps after you've talked to her, you'd like to see over the prison. It isn't all as comfortable as this.
No, that won't be necessary.
Shall I send for her now?
No, not yet. You mentioned her medical condition.
Yes. I have a full report from Dr. Mays. Her heart isn't in very good order. Fibrillation. Could be dangerous if left untreated.
But it does respond to treatment.
Oh, yes.
Which can be administered in here.
Yes.
Very well, Mrs. Forrester. I shall see her now.
Would you bring in Mrs. Loveridge now, please? Thank you. Will you... I shan't interrupt unless there's anything you want to ask me.
Oh, really?
Regulations, I'm afraid.
Ah, Mrs. Loveridge.
They didn't tell me it were you.
Would you like me to stay, sir?
No, thank you. Hope you're going to be more civil than you were last time we met.
What do you come here for?
You remember that one of the conditions of your imprisonment was that you be released as soon as you made a suitable apology. Now, Mrs. Forrester's asked me to give you that opportunity.
What, say I'm sorry, like?
Yes.
How would you feel if someone were trying to take the roof off of your head? Oh, maybe I was a bit argumentative, but that's the only home I got. And may the good Lord come down and strike me dead if that meant the truth.
Nobody was trying to turn you out.
Oh, yes, they were.
No, the order of the court was that you should move away from that particular place.
And go where, for instance? You didn't think of that, did you?
It was hardly my responsibility to find you alternative accommodation.
Well, you were the one that were trying to chuck us out.
Mrs. Loveridge, I haven't come here to consider the whole of your case again. Are you going to apologize or not?
What for?
Well, in the first place, for your violent personal abuse.
Well, maybe I did say one or two things I shouldn't have.
Are you going to apologize?
Well, all right then.
Good. Now we can get on to the second and rather more important point.
What's that then?
The other reason you're in here is because you refused to comply with the judgment of the court. Now, I can't possibly make an order for your release until I'm satisfied that you mean to do so.
No!
You know, you really are an extremely tiresome old woman. It appears the whole of your family would be only too glad to move away to a different site, provided that purpose by the local authority, with every possible amenity.
Yes, I heard all that.
Yes, and the only obstacle is your own stupidity.
I know what you've come here for. You've come to take away my pride.
Oh, what rubbish.
You didn't like it when I went against your authority. You're used to people doing what you tell them. Well, so am I. If you keep chopping and changing, people don't respect you.
So you prefer to stay in here?
Yes, I do.
And leave your people to stay on at that dirty and inconvenient site till they're forcibly evicted? That seems a very high price for them to have to pay for what you call your pride.
You don't know my people. They wouldn't want to see me beaten.
Mrs. Forrester?
Yes?
I really don't see any point in continuing this discussion.
Very well. All right. Go outside and wait for an escort.
Most unsatisfactory, a complete waste of my time, in fact.
I'm so sorry.
She refuses to cooperate. I can't possibly make an order for her release.
I thought perhaps in view of her general state of health.
Yes, but you told me that her heart condition could be controlled by drugs.
The prison isn't the ideal place to carry out such treatment.
Yes, I accept that, but however compassionate we may feel towards her, we can't lose sight of the main point at issue.
And what exactly is that, in your view?
That she refused to obey the order of the court and showed complete contempt for my authority.
Oh, I see.
Well, why do you ask?
Well, I thought that the main point at issue was to get her people to leave that unhygienic campsite and move to somewhere better. Now, if you could arrange for her to see this other place that the council have provided, she could... well, she could change her mind without losing face.
I suppose that's a possibility.
It must be very hard to climb down when one's taken such a firm stand.
I'm due in chambers to hear an application, Mrs. Forrester. I'll see that you receive the necessary papers for her release in the morning. As you say, the important thing is that the order of the court should be obeyed.
Now, whatever you do, don't forget to take your tablets. Yeah, I've given you enough for a couple of weeks. And you take this letter to your doctor, and he'll give you a prescription.
Yes, sir.
Your general condition is really very good. It's quite remarkable, in fact, so there's nothing to worry about as long as you take the tablets and you see the doctor.
Yes, sir.
Well, I say goodbye now, and I wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you, sir. Bless you. You're a good little rabbi.
What's a rabbi?
Well, you are, sir. Doctor.
Oh. I must remember that. Rabbi.
Well, and you've been good to me too, lady. You and your boy. Tell him I'm sorry I won't never make a scholar.
Oh, that's all right. Is somebody coming to collect you?
Yes.
Well, get your things together and I'll get someone to take you to reception.
Oh, Rowder. So you're really going? We're going to miss you. Honest. Jill's got a carrier for you to put your things in.
Oh, I don't want anything in there. You can have it.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Thanks.
Don't forget, you send us a postcard.
Put that down the toilet for me, will you?
Oh, Rowder, I've just heard. I'm so glad you've changed your mind.
What do you mean? I ain't changed nothing.
Here we are then, Nan. Nice to be home, isn't it? There. Have I kept it nice for you?
Looks all right.
Well, I'll make a pot of tea. You sit yourself down, then. It's, pity you was so tired. I wanted to go round the other way, show you the new place.
What new place?
You know, the new camping site. Oh, I promised not to mention that, didn't I?
Gordon.
What?
Chuck these away for me somewhere, will he?
What are they?
Oh, just something the Drebbi gave me in there to make me sleep. Shan't need 'em now I'm home again, shall I?
There seems to be some trouble over Mrs. Weeks's pension book. And I'd like you to give aftercare a call about Nancy Milton. She's due for release tomorrow.
Very well, I'll see to it.
You know, I can't help wondering about Mrs. Loveridge.
Mrs. who?
The gypsy woman. I wonder if she ever did change her mind.
Not a chance, I shouldn't think.
Why don't you go over there and find out? Go on.
I ain't never gonna tell 'em to move on. May the Lord Almighty come down and strike me dead if that ain't the truth.
What's this other place like?
Oh, it's great. Water laid on, drainage, everything you want.
I ain't never gonna tell 'em to move on.
You were quite right. It's a great improvement, much nicer.
Yeah, I'm making a few changes in here and all. Well, she was a fine old girl, but she didn't have collection stuff.
I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, it was only a few days after I brought her back here. We called the doctor, but it weren't no use. Her heart would give out, he said. Oh, well, at that age, you know.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, she was quite a character, really.
But she did eventually change her mind about moving.
What, her? Not on your life.
But you did move.
Yeah, well, we always do when there's been a death. Directly after the burying, we all moves off. Go somewhere else. It wouldn't be lucky otherwise.
She knew that, didn't she?
Of course she did.
It's almost as if she meant to die. Do you think it was because she knew you'd be better off out here? She wanted to come, but she was simply too proud to give in and admit it.
Could be.
It was her way of doing what was best for her people. Yes, I'm sure. She would.